For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. With just 5 days before Brazil's general elections, President Dilma Rousseff has pulled ahead of her competitors as the clear favorite. Most recent polls give Rousseff a 15-point lead over her nearest competitor, Marina Silva, in the first round of voting scheduled for Sunday. It comes as Rousseff's campaign has launched a series of ads highlighting Silva's political flip-flops and touting Rousseff's social policies and fight against corruption. The positive turn for Rousseff can also be attributed to a list of new campaign strategies. The incumbent has increased her number of visits to the country's 26 states and has sometimes been joined by the extremely popular former Brazilian president Lula da Silva. But according to analysts, the key to her recent success has been her engagement with Brasilia's largest social movement, the Landless Workers' Party movement, and the engagement with Brazil's youth. And for the very latest in Brazil, we turn to our correspondent in Brazil, Stephanie Kennedy.
Hello and good day here from Rio in Brazil. At the moment we're in Copacabana, one of the city's wealthiest areas and also a top tourist destination. But it's not just this part of town which has felt the benefits of the PT government, the Workers' Party government. We've got a few figures here comparing 2002 to 2013. For example, extreme poverty dropped from 15% down to 5.2%, whereas poverty in general fell from 34% down to 15%. Another figure, minimum wage went from $86 a month to over $305 a month. All that meant that, in general, 42 million people came out of poverty, whereas 38 million joined the middle classes, all that under the Workers' Party. Today we're going to discover a bit more about that. We're going to meet Bernardo Cotrim, one of the leaders of the Workers' Party here in Rio. We'll bring you more later. That's all for now. I'm Stephanie Kennedy, and back to the studio.
Thanks to Stephanie. In Mexico, 57 students are reported missing after violent clashes over the weekend in the state of Guerrero. At least 6 people died in the conflicts over the weekend. 22 police officers have been detained in connection to the disappearances. The local mayor has been called to appear before authorities for an explanation of the violence. In New York, U.S. Judge Thomas Griesa declared Monday that Argentina is in contempt of court. Griesa has regularly sided with the vulture funds. He says Argentina's attempts to pay back bondholders is illegal, despite the agreement of nearly all bondholders themselves. The judge says that vulture funds should be paid first. Argentina's foreign minister hit back at the ruling.
It's totally and absolutely inconceivable that litigants have even considered that a local judge can declare Argentina as in contempt of court. This idea is based on either ignorance or the wrong perception of the basic rules of international law and peaceful coexistence of the global order. International law strictly prohibits measures by national judges against foreign states.
In Ecuador, a conference of Latin American progressives is underway. Leading international left-wing parties and politicians are discussing how to advance 21st century socialism. Our correspondent Liz Scherfius reports from Quito.
Bringing together 35 political parties and movements from across Latin America and a few European countries, the Latin American Progressive Encounter is occurring in Quito. It seeks to devise strategies to strengthen leftist governments against what President Rafael Correa has called a resurgence of the right, and to discuss other topics of regional and international importance.
It was President Correa's idea to remember yet another anniversary of the 30th of September, which for us in Ecuador is a very important date. It was a date when there was an attempted coup, fortunately a failed one, and a moment when Ecuadorians demonstrated their firm commitment to democracy. And for us it's a very, very important date, and we wanted to commemorate that date. Let's not forget several people died on that day, and we wanted to commemorate it therefore with the presence of friends of Ecuador, political parties and movements from the region who could come and congregate in Ecuador and discuss a number of issues.
With the participation of former presidents, senators, political organizers, and intellectuals, the event features 6 roundtables focusing on topics such as sovereignty, resurgence special guests leading talks for those attending. President Correa opened the event, and it will close with a commemoration ceremony and a formal declaration by participants centered on the topics discussed and hopes for the region.
The conservative resurgence exists. Do not doubt this, and the best way to confront it is with the unity of progressive movements. And this is exactly why we are here, to dream a future of unity and good living, and to also make this dream possible with concrete political actions that let us consolidate this democratic and progressive rebirth of Latin America in the 21st century.
Here at the Latin American Progressives Encounter, individuals, special guests, and organizations are here to discuss regional integration and new strategies for the left. Liz Scherfius, Telesur, Ecuador.
Thanks to Liz. As an example of destabilization attempts in Latin America, 4 years ago today in Ecuador, a coup plot to remove President Rafael Correa was successfully halted. During the chaos, members of the National Police attacked and abducted the president, but citizens took to the streets in protest, and the army orchestrated a successful rescue mission. Latin American governments from Venezuela to Honduras have all suffered similar coup attempts intended to remove democratically elected governments. In world news, the new president of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani, spent his first day as head of state renewing a security agreement with the United States to allow 12,000 troops to stay in the country through 2015. NATO troops had been lined up to withdraw from the country by the end of 2014, but the new U.S.-led group will include 2,200 troops from NATO member countries. Ghani's predecessor, Hamid Karzai, had previously refused the deal, but a power struggle between the two potential leaders since the June elections led to the U.S.-friendly Ghani's appointment. The United States is also sending troops to Liberia. There, 3,000 military personnel will head to West Africa to assist with the fight against the Ebola outbreak. On average, the three worst-hit countries of Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea have on average one doctor per every 100,000 people.
That are the beginnings of setting up the logistic hub.
The Islamic State group is encroaching on Turkey's territory, according to Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu. U.S. forces continue attacks against the group in Syria. Turkey has amassed tanks on its border with Syria to prevent an influx of insurgents. While Turkey has refused to join the U.S. coalition airstrikes, Davutoglu is now calling for help from the international community to stop IS from using Turkey as a passage into Europe. And we go to Spain, where the Catalonia region has hit back against the Spanish government's attempts to prevent its independence vote. The head of the regional government, Artur Mas, has vowed to continue with the vote despite the Constitutional Court's ruling yesterday declaring the poll illegal. Scheduled for November 9th, the vote would have been a mass consultation on whether Catalonia, which has its own language and represents 1/5 of Spain's GDP, should stay part of Spain or separate to form its own country. And finally, in a possible sign of an easing of tensions between the U.S. and Russia, the organizers of the Mrs. America pageant announced that next year's contest will be held in what has become known as Russia-annexed Crimea. The U.S. has slapped sanctions on Russia, accusing it of trying to extend its borders into Ukrainian territory. The U.S. has also supported Ukraine by funding defense equipment. While the organizers of the pageant may not have chosen the location for political reasons, a U.S.-organized event held in Russia could bring with it international implications.
It's about politics for us. It's about having an experience for the Russian women and the American women together.
Plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle.